paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. Several times a week, the instructors would line up the class and do a uniform inspection. It was exceptionally thorough. Your hat had to be perfectly starched, your uniform immaculately pressed, your belt buckle shiny and void of any smudges. But it seemed that no matter how much effort you put into starching your hat or pressing your uniform or polishing your belt buckle, it just wasn't good enough. The instructors would find something wrong. For failing the uniform inspection, the student had to run, fully clothed, into the surf zone, then wet from head to toe, roll around on the beach until every part of your body was covered with sand. The effect was known as a sugar cookie. You stayed in the uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their efforts were in vain, that no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it went unappreciated. Those students didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. The instructors weren't going to allow it. Sandy. Sometimes no matter how well you prepare, couldn't accept the fact or how well you performed, all their efforts were in vain. And no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it's just the way life is unappreciated. Those students change the world didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand and keep moving forward. The purpose of the drill. Every day during training, you were challenged with multiple physical events, long runs, early swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics. Sometimes many students couldn't accept the fact or how well every event had standards. There's times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those times, those standards, your name was posted on a list, and at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. No one wanted a circus. A circus meant that for that day, you didn't measure up. A circus meant more fatigue, and more fatigue meant that the following day would be more difficult, and more circuses were likely. But at some time during SEAL training, everyone made the circus list. But an interesting thing happened to those who were constantly on the list. Over time, those students who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics got stronger and stronger. The pain of the circuses built inner strength and physical resiliency. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail one. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. But an interesting thing, at times it will test you to your those who are constantly on the list. But if you don't, if you want to change the world, who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics. At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot-long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, it only took him half that time. And by the end of the course, he had broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first. During the land warfare phase of training, the students are flown out to San Clemente Island, which lies off the coast of San Diego. The waters off San Clemente are a breeding ground for the great white sharks. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you are also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. Patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. If you hope to complete the swim, it is on Wednesday of Hell Week deal with them. That you paddle down in the mud flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold from the sharks, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure. One of our jobs from the instructors is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy ships. Began to set that Wednesday evening. We practiced this technique my training class during training. Committed some egregious missions where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside into the enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles each man until there was nothing visible, using nothing but a depth gauge. The instructors told us to get to the target. We could leave the mud if only during the entire swim would quit. Even only well 5 men, just 5 men. There is some we could get out of the oppressive cold that comes through. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. Open water above you. Still over 8 hours till the sun came up, which is tied to appear, the light begins to fade. A bone-chilling cold. The steel structure of the ship watched the moans of the trainees were so surrounding, and then swim laps. It was hard to hear anything. It was all and then light. One voice began to be successful in your mission. You have to swim under the ship. We could leave them. One voice raised and so on. And the deepest part of the ship, the song was this here objective. We could get out of the keel was also the darkest part of the ship. Looking around the mud, you can see your hand in front of your face. And to became a noise from the ship's machinery as the class was singing. And where it gets instructors threatened to use more time in the mud if we kept up the singing. But the singing every SEAL knows, and somehow the mud seemed a little warmer. At that darkest moment of the mission, the wind a little tamer, and the time when you need to be not so far away. Calm. If I have learned anything when you must be composed, traveling the world, when all your technical skills, your physical power, the power of one person's strength, Washington, Lincoln, King, Mandela, if you want to change the world from Pakistan, Malala, you must be one person can change the world in the darkest moments by giving people hope. The ninth week of training is referred to as Hell Week. Start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Constant physical and mental harassment. Finally, in SEAL training, there's one special day at the brass bell that hangs in the center of the area between San Diego and Tijuana, where the water runs off. All you have to do to quit creates the Tijuana sluice. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell of terrain where the mud runs off, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, down the mud flats, and no longer 15 hours, freezing cold. Ring the bell, howling wind, you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course that the instructor, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. My training class has the most years ring the bell, fraction of the rules. Was your change the world. We kept on showing each man for those nothing ring the bell visible but our heads. A little warm. The class was told you are moments away from graduating. Only 5 moments away from beginning your journey. Just 5 moments away from starting to change the world. When all your physical skills, your physical not be easy as a parent of some student, but you are the class of 2014. The class that can still allow 8 hours to listen to people in more hours. Start each day with a task completion goal. Find someone to help you through shivering home to the trainees who are loud. Know that life is hard there, and you will fail often. And then if you take some risks, one voice will step up in the times of the toughest. Face down the one voice, lift up the downtrodden, and never ever give up. The song which we do these where the water runs in the do it quick. The generations that follow, one voice is going to be far better than the one we have today. Before long, everyone will hear will indeed change the world. More time in the mud, we kept up the singing. Thank you very much. Freezing cold. Somehow the mud seems a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away.
When I was a very young person, I began my career as an actress. Whenever my mother wasn't free to drive me to Manhattan for auditions, I would take the train from suburban New Jersey on my father, who would have left his desk in the office where he worked, and we would meet on the upper platform arrival and departure sign at Penn Station. Get on the subway together, and when we surfaced, he would ask me, "Which way is north?" I was a very good at finding north, but I didn't paramount until my dad kept asking me, "Which way is north?" At the time, I got better at finding it.
You no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swim. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs with obstacle courses. We no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. You're going to come when you want to change the world. Don't ever ring the bell. For the class of 2014, you are moments away from graduating. Moments away from beginning your journey through life. Moments away from starting to change the world for the better. It will not be easy, but you are the class of 2014, the class that can affect the lives of 800 million people in the next century. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much. Hook 'em horns.
When I was a very young person, I began my career as an actress. Whenever my mother wasn't free to drive me into Manhattan for auditions, I would take the train from suburban New Jersey and meet my father, who would have left his desk at the law office where he worked, and we would meet under the upper platform arrival and departure sign in Penn Station. We would then get on the subway together, and when we surfaced, he would ask me, "Which way is north?" I wasn't very good at finding north in the beginning, but I auditioned a fair amount, and so my dad kept asking me, "Which way is north?" Over time, I got better at finding it. I was struck by that memory yesterday while boarding the plane to come here, not just by how far my life has come since then, but by how meaningful that seemingly small lesson has been. When I was still a child, my father developed my sense of direction, and now, as an adult, I trust my ability to navigate space. My father helped give me the confidence to guide myself through the world. In late March last year, 2016, I became a parent for the first time. I remember the indescribable and, as I understand it, pretty universal experience of holding my week-old son and feeling my priorities change on a cellular level. I remember I experienced a shift in consciousness that gave me the ability to maintain my love of career and also cherish something else, someone else, so much, much more. Like so many parents, I wondered how I was going to balance my work with my new role as parent. And in that moment, I remember that the statistic for the US's policy on maternity leave flashed in my mind. American women are currently entitled to 12 weeks unpaid leave. American men are entitled to nothing. That information landed differently for me when 1 week after my son's birth, I could barely walk. That information landed differently when I was getting to know a human who was completely dependent on my husband and I for everything, when I was dependent on my husband for most things, and when we were relearning everything we thought we knew about our family and our relationship. It landed differently. Somehow, we and every American parent were expected to be back to normal in under 3 months. Without income? I remember thinking to myself, if the practical reality of pregnancy is another mouth to feed in your home, and America is a country where most people are living paycheck to paycheck, how does 12 weeks unpaid leave economically work? The truth is, for too many people, it doesn't. 1 in 4 American women go back to work 2 weeks after giving birth because they can't afford to take off any more time than that. That's 25% of American women. Equally disturbing, women who can afford to take a full 12 weeks often don't, because it'll mean incurring a motherhood penalty, meaning they will be perceived as less dedicated to their job and will be passed over for promotions and other career advancement. In my own household, my mother had to choose between a career and raising 3 children, a choice that left her unpaid and underappreciated as a homemaker, because there just wasn't support for both paths. The memory of being in the city with my dad is a particularly meaningful one, since he was the sole breadwinner in our house, and my brothers and my time with him was always limited by how much he had to work. And we were an incredibly privileged family. Our hardships were the stuff of other families' dreams. The deeper